Hello, everybody. This is Amanda Elo'esh, your quicker waker upper, and you are tuned in to Inalienable Sovereignty, Conversations for Elevation. And I am super excited and honored to have Maria Christina Owl, longtime friend, longtime medicine woman, guide, ceremonialist, channel, and going to invite her to say hello and introduce herself a little bit more. Hi.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Good, good to be here. Um, yeah, I like to tell people I've had an extraordinary life because my life has never been mainstream, and I've had a lot of paranormal experiences and phenomena throughout my life. Contact with light beings and demons and the whole kind of gamut until finally I answered the call to initiation and initiated into two very amazing lineages throughout my life. And my whole, I guess, what brings me joy and what, if I was a fish in water, that water would be shamanism.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I can't not have, ceremony, earth-based ritual, and it makes sense to me. It's what I perceive as bringing reconnection and balance to my communities faster than anything else,
Beautiful.
because of the uh, the level of surrender, trust, and acceptance that is elicited through those spaces. So,
Beautiful. And I know the word shamanism is used a lot and it can represent a lot of different things. And curious
want
if
my
you want to.
definition?
Yeah.
So, I have adopted shamanism for convenience, right?
Yeah.
Because in our Western world, it has been spread through the vernacular as meaning something in particular and referring to the medicine people across even all over the world. And so I use it for convenience, and I understand every tribe has their own language and their own word. My Lakota teacher, he didn't even call himself a medicine man. He called himself a spiritual interpreter, right? He came
Mm,
up with his own word for what he did because he was a channel, right?
yeah.
And so for me, the shamans are the ones who have the propensity to move between the worlds specifically.
Yeah.
That is the gift of the shaman. They are able, in their astral body, to move between many dimensions. They're multidimensional, and that gives them the ability to perceive the what is invisible in the waking world, right? And so
Yeah.
they have their guides that support them with that and protect them on those journeys, like soul retrievals, etc. So yeah, that's my interpretation.
Beautiful. I love it. And we are diving in. These are conversations about inalienable sovereignty and curious about what does that mean for you?
Well, sovereignty. I've been thinking about this, and for me, sovereignty is something that we are already, right? It's part of universal law. It's part of what, the law of free will makes us sovereign. We govern ourselves, and it's our responsibility to govern ourselves. Yet, because in where we are right now in this incredible transition time on the planet, after tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years of development from the first seed races on the planet, right? And the enslavement and all of that, we've come to this point of really being estranged from our sovereignty. So now, for
Right.
me, what sovereignty encompasses is not just who we truly are, original blueprint of that free will, but also what we have to work toward. And in that movement towards sovereignty, it is really the reclaiming of that original blueprint which means we have to look at, are we governing, are we in free will around our own mind and thoughts? Are we in free will around our own physical health? Are we in free will and, full sovereignty around our astral body travels and what happens once we fall asleep? And so for me, it's like, are you awake? Are you aware? Like, are you enlightened, right? Around every aspect of who you are. And most of us, we don't even know every aspect of who we are. You know,
No
it's
doubt.
a constant exploration and discovery process, which is so worth it, so worth every moment of our
Mhm.
life and time and energy and
Uh-huh.
focus.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. We are multidimensional beings, and we've been programmed out of even recognizing how much we do have access to, out of our language, out of our culture, out of our daily practices, putting our choices and awareness kind of outside of ourselves, having to ask for permission through other sources. But I'm curious about, the fact that we are multidimensional beings, and it is our kind of like our game. I look at this as like, you chose to jump into this life. It's like an escape room, with all these obstacles,
Mm.
to unravel. And there are a lot of different ways that we get impacted, and people that are just starting to wake up to recognizing, oh, my subconscious is running a lot of my decisions, thoughts, and behaviors. They're in the psychic field and the astral plane. There's just so many different ways. And I'm curious what you have to share about where things get sticky for people, where they need to focus to unravel, to have more access to being fully at choice.
Yeah, I always say that focus with what is most alive right before you. So there is no, right place to begin. You begin where you are. And that's where you focus, knowing that everything is connected. So, for example, if you feel this call to go back to graduate school and get your degree, or to focus in more of an academic or intellectual development way, you are going to open doors that are going to impact your emotional body, your physical body, and all these other parts. It's gonna bleed out and touch all parts of you if you're well intentioned, right? And bring yourself fully into that chapter, into that work that you're called to do. So if you're called to do emotional healing and the inner work of really the shadow work, bring yourself fully to that, and all other aspects of yourself will be blessed by it. And even relationships and family and everything, right, rippled out. So wherever you are, start there. And I also really encourage people to put out a prayer. If you have been the lone wolf and do it by myself, for your, if that's kind of your MO, survival technique or what have you, because of mistrust from the past, what I've done is put out a prayer as I launch into my inner work, or my what is mine to do. Thank you for bringing me to the perfect support circle, group, sisters, therapist, whatever it is, acupuncturist, whatever it is, whoever it is, who can have your back in that work.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh. Yeah, I often, when I talk with clients or people who are about to become clients, I let them know. I used to do the lone wolf thing a lot, just because I, growing up, I just didn't know a lot of people who were aware of the layers of reality that I was. And so I didn't know how they could help me,
right.
So I got used to holding space for myself, even as my world started to open up and I started realizing, oh, there are other people like me, that have these unusual gifts and wisdom and insights. And now I have this, I have people I go to. You're one of them. I let people know, like, even though I can do great healing for myself and I can hold space for other people, we all need help from our community, friends, loved ones. And it's important to be open and receptive to that as well.
Mhm.
I'm curious. I know that you've done channeling for a long time, and people have really benefited, including myself, from your channeling abilities, and people who are curious about how to go into that, because I know you have a program coming up around that, teaching that, and I'd just love for you to share a little, just riff on that for a little bit, share a little bit about your journey and what you're going to be helping people to do.
Oh, fun. I love this topic. Um, I really believe that every human being is a channel. It's just, you know, even physiologically from the mouth to the anus, like we're a channel. We're a channel. And we channel from the ground, from the crown to the root. We channel just because we're an open system in the universe. And there's a constant flow of energy, of photons, of information. And we have a kind of birthright to have access to these higher fields, frequencies of information, of guidance, of spiritual knowledge and wisdom. And a lot of us, almost all in the Western dominant culture, have been trained to look to certain authority figures for access to that higher, or books, ancient books, for access to those, that knowledge, when in fact we have direct access all the time. And so, what I am excited to kind of reach out and offer is for people who are feeling the call to develop themselves, develop their natural channeling ability. And so, just like in every other kind of field um, of ability in us, different people have different talents and gifts that we're born with. And they're going to come in and have a propensity for music, for mathematics, for being relational and making people feel safe and comfortable. And some people are born with an innate ability to channel. They are literally wired, probably from many past lives of playing a role of an oracle or prophet or a shaman. Um, and then in this current life, perhaps there have been other incidences that have helped to open up the gift, including near death experience, head traumas, um, even trauma with a lot of dissociating. And that opens up and strengthens this like in and out ability. And where do people go to find support, to kind of have more control in their life around their gift, where they can be at cause to like switch it on, switch it off as they need for their highest health? And so, what I found in my journeys throughout my development and initiation processes through the decades is that I've worked with a lot of Native people, a lot of indigenous cultures, and most of the medicine people that I've sat with are channels. And I always knew I was a channel, like I kind of knew, but I was so afraid to claim it. So I went into denial around it and really suppressed it in myself. It was okay to develop other gifts, but I never could use the word channel or medium with me, because I felt like it was presumptuous and I felt embarrassed to claim it.
Mm,
And that is cultural training, conditioning,
yeah.
to have the shamans, all because we are not within a lineage, because we are in the melting pot of America, for example, or any Western country. You can't claim something like this because it's embarrassing, because if you do, there's a lot of judgment. You aren't native, you can't claim that.
Yeah.
And so for me, it took until I was in my mid 30s to start to really make a list of all of these things that have happened to me and recognize them as spiritual initiation into being a medium and channel and a shaman. And so I had to take it seriously, because if I didn't, if you don't own the channel and conduit that you are, something else is going to try to co-opt your ability for their agenda, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's your responsibility to name who you are. It doesn't have to be public. It has to be for you. You have to claim it, and then begin to develop yourself with maturity, with responsibility, with humility, and seek, guidance on that path of development. And so holistic channeling is my attempt to give people a safe container, a healthy, balanced container to have mirroring and mentoring on that path of development. Um, yeah, so that they can be, they can become more and more sovereign around the mind, body, spirit, the astral, the etheric, the causal aspects of themselves. Once you understand your channeling mediumship ability, your soul mission, and you start to put the pieces together of, oh, the past life memories, and it all makes sense now. This is what I was born to do, whether you do it with clients like I do, whether you teach it eventually, or whether it's just simply for family and friends or for yourself to have guidance in your own life. You will get clarity around that as you choose to claim who you truly are. Um, so, part of taking responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I had a hard time, and at times even question using the word channel. Um, but I think there's a big difference between channel and medium. I definitely don't consider myself a medium, but I know that since I was a child, I've been able to, I was having samadhi experiences where I was, really going into unity consciousness, feeling that bliss and awareness, and then uh, curious about, okay, how do I bring it down? How do I channel it into, wisdom that helps me to navigate for my own life? And then how do I share it with other people? And I agree, just simply making that intention, that from how can I use it to be of service, it has it just shown up to be cultivated. And so there's this wisdom that I can feel the difference, between my ego, desires and old programming, fear or scarcity desires, uh, trying to figure out how to navigate versus the stuff that comes in. And it's like, for me, I describe it as like, I go into this open state like an ear, right? Where I'm receptive, and I make a claim of only, I'm only available to everything that's greater than me, that wishes me well, and pure source energy and wisdom. And then it just kind of, I call it like the download. It's pretty common for people to say, because it comes in through senses that we don't normally talk about, don't necessarily have words for, but just kind of like an inner knowing. Sometimes there's a visual to go with it. Sometimes there's a song with lyrics that are perfectly describing, right? There are different elements that it will show up in my being. And that I consider like channeling source wisdom. Because people are like, well, who do you work with? What are your guides? And I'm like, well, I work with a lot of different guides. Mostly I feel like I'm accessing my limitless self, who is Spider Woman. She's shown herself to me, and she's an archetype that's been recognized cross culturally around the world. So there's this, she's the weaver of the universe. So, but source energy for me is really how it comes in, and it's the collective greater consciousness.
That's
But
right.
I would love your take on mediumship and channeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you just described, Amanda. Um, your description is really what in the, what was it, 20s, 30s, when Edgar Casey was going into his deep trance states and bringing through. He was one of the first kind of public channels who accessed Akashic records, universal records or knowledge like that, the collective consciousness, and bring it through. And we know, most people know, like he really brought through amazing prophetic visions and histories of Atlantis and all like amazing stuff. So that's one form of channeling. Absolutely. And if you have the ability and it's innate in you, you're natural, many people are able to do multiple forms of being a conduit because the instrument can be played in many ways. You know, a flute, there are many different kinds of flute. It can be played in many ways, jazzy, meditative. And so
Right.
I know
I
that's cheesy.
love that. No, I love that metaphor. Go with it.
Yeah, and so we can link to universal wisdom. We can also, like a medium, as you said, mediumship is specifically becoming a conduit. So a channel, of course, links two different locations and streams information from one location into another, and it kind of organizes that stream of information or energy or frequency, and it's able to come through in an interpretable, understandable way on the other side in our material realm. And so a medium is able to do that with the ancestor realm, with the realm of those who have crossed over, including wandering lost souls, who are not quite elevated yet, but are elevating. Um, and so mediums specifically work with that and may do psychopomp work as a big part of what they do, which is helping to uh, usher or send those wandering lost souls to the light through the portal to the afterlife. Um, Mediumship is tricky because there can be a taking in of unelevated spirits into the body that is very risky
Yeah.
for somebody who is not very adept and trained and has become a very clear, pristine channel for that work. I know a woman who is very adept at that, and she will depossess people and take it into her body and let her body be like the slingshot that sends it to the afterlife. But I do not recommend that for everybody.
Right. No
I mean,
doubt.
she's in a long line of mediums who do that from Palestine, and
Mm,
they're amazing channels,
mm,
mediums in that way. But I do not choose. I've had unelevated beings in my body, and has never been healthy for me.
yeah.
So I tend to rather telepath with those who have crossed over to bring through messages for people. That works for me, and it is very safe and in integrity with my system.
Mm,
Yet channeling, like some people say, there's the ascended masters, channeling your spiritual helpers, even channeling our higher density helpers who are right here, right now, alive. They're just not in this 3D realm. They're phased into their realm, a 4D, 5D, 6D um, collective field. And we can connect with them. And it's linked to two things. This is what I've discovered and what I teach in holistic channeling. And it's also something that keeps unraveling. In our DNA, we have markers. We are seeded from many, many star races, as well as this planet's organic evolutionary process. And it's all in our DNA. And our DNA it's like a receiver, it's like a transceiver. And it can receive from the morphogenic field, but it also can receive signal from anybody we're related to, right? And so when you think of channeling, our DNA is the transceiver in our physical body. And we link to, in healthy holistic channeling, we're linking to the consciousness that we are a member of in higher densities and higher frequencies. When our brain waves can cycle faster from like the beta to, we go into the theta and we go into gamma and even into the epsilon lambda. But at gamma, we can really open into, we can basically, our DNA is then available to receive the messages from those higher frequencies. So our brain waves are almost like the opening of the portal so that the link can be made between the higher dimensions and our where we live and breathe in this dimension, third going into fourth, right?
Yeah.
So it's always going to be safe because it's you. Like when I channel the Hathors, it's because I'm a member at that density of that collective consciousness. When I channel Celestial Dragon Council, it's because I am part of Celestial Dragon Council. If you are channeling and linking with Arcturian and getting Arcturian downloads, it's because you have Arcturian DNA. And that's something I'm continuing to explore and unravel, but that's kind of what I've come to at this point.
Beautiful. I love it. I hope that people who are interested in channeling or aware that they have that already, maybe feeling sensitive, empathic, without any, particular structure around it, it's really important to get some support and guidance. And I encourage people to tune in with you. And you mentioned the Dragon Council Master Key, I know, is one that you have channeled, and he's shown up a few times to give me beautiful, and my partner Matthew, really helpful blessings and guidance and information. As we are starting to wrap up, how can people, what do you have going on that people can check into, and how can people get on to the journey that you're taking people on?
Thank you. I'll invite people to go to my website because it's all there. It's all there, which is sacredfuture.org, sacredfuture.org. And that from there you will see information about the Holistic Channeling Level 1 course, which begins on Sunday coming up.
Wow.
It's just 2 Sundays in a row, 2-hour seminars where we'll go into the foundational, are you a channel? What is the calling? What does this mean for you? And just the foundations. We'll take a week break, and then we have level 2, which is 3 Sundays with 2-hour seminars. I am offering level 1 and level 2 again in November and December. And that's all online. And it's kind of funneling into a first week of March level 3 in person here on the Big Island of Hawaii at the Temple of Remembering, our house here. So we're going to do an in person because ethically I can't teach level 3 online. It has to be in person because we're going to be channeling.
Yeah. And
So
people, you have a beautiful home. I've been there a few times now. Incredible place, and high vibe area and who wouldn't want to come and sit in person with you and Dwayne and all that you
our
bring
chickens
through.
and the roosters.
And the chickens and roosters.
Yeah.
No doubt. Beautiful. Well, it's always a pleasure when I get to connect with you. I really appreciate you sharing some of your insights and your journey with our community. I encourage you to connect with Maria Owl, Holistic Channeling, and levels 1, level 2. She's got a lot of other offerings as well. Sacredfuture.org. And any last closing words?
Yeah. I would love to also give you the opportunity to kind of dive into my work with my I just published a book called Planetary Ascension in January, and there are quite a few transcribed channeled offerings in that, and it's very much based on the raw material, the law of one, and these times that we're in now of planetary ascension. So it is on Amazon. And you can find it there.
I
More.
highly recommend it. As you know, I told Matthew, my partner, you got to read this. And he was grateful that he did. It's really a beautiful book, easy to read. Yeah, no, I highly recommend that. So Planetary Ascension, sacredfuture.org. And we will be here every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, right here. And we also broadcast this to YouTube and Podbean podcast. Thank you, Maria Owl. Thank you for tuning in out there in the world. Until we get to connect again, may the source be with you.